Hello, good afternoon. My name is Paul Scarupa. I'm a United States Probation Officer in the Northern District of Ohio. Here today to teach the class about pre-sentence investigation and organizational skills to help you be successful in that unit. Before we get to that, kind of just want to break the ice a little bit. I know this isn't always the most comfortable area to go around and tell a little bit about yourself. So I'll go ahead and start that. And a little bit about myself is, obviously I'm a United States Probation Officer and have been for 5.5 years. Before that, I grew up in Northeast Ohio, attended college in Ohio, and I was a state probation officer in Charlotte, North Carolina, before eventually at that point, while working in Charlotte, is how I actually found out what a federal probation officer is. So did some online research about what a federal probation officer does, threw my name into a hat. I saw an opening down in Savannah, Georgia, applied for it, having never been to Savannah before. They called me for an interview, and I got lucky, so they hired me. That was in January of 2013. I started in Savannah. I was assigned to the pre-sentence unit, and I continued to work in Savannah, Georgia, which is in the Southern District of Georgia, from January 2013 until September of 2016, so more or less 3.5 years. At that point, I was offered a position in the Northern District of Ohio, and I'm out of the Cleveland office, came up to Ohio basically just to come home. My family's from 30 minutes outside of Cleveland, so it was a good reunion to come home. Between living in Charlotte and then Savannah, I had been outside of Ohio for 5 years, so siblings and parents were obviously excited to see me come back. So I've been in Ohio now since September of 2016, and in December of 2017, so roughly 13, 14 months after I came up to Ohio, I was promoted to the guideline specialist position. So again, I've stayed in the pre-sentence unit. I've been promoted as the guideline specialist, and for the past 7 or 8 months, I've been one of 2 guideline specialists in this district. So with that position comes many different duties, and I'm sure they vary amongst districts. In this district, as a guideline specialist, I do several things. I help my supervisor review reports and answer guideline questions for every officer in the district. I'm assigned a mentor for several new hires that we have throughout this district, and by mentor, that means that myself, the other guideline specialist, and our 2 pre-sentence supervisors are responsible for fully training new officers in matters of pre-sentence reports and investigations. So that can be tedious at times. I enjoy doing that. I also assist with helping other trainings. If the U.S. Attorney's Office hires new attorneys, I'll go up to their floor, explain our role to them. Next month in July of 2018, I'm giving a presentation in front of the IRS office in Cleveland as far as what our role. They have some questions about certain guideline enhancements under the 2B1.1 fraud guideline that they wanted me to come to speak to new agents about. So I get my hands into a lot of things, mostly just reviewing reports and helping out with guideline issues. Obviously, I still carry a full caseload of my own investigations. So with that, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that, but there's also a lot of ways that job can be way worse than it is, if not for just having organizational skills. So regardless of when I worked in Georgia or now in Ohio, one thing for me that I've always found pride in is my organization has absolutely guaranteed my productivity as far as timeliness goes. So anyone in the pre-sentence unit knows, above all, timeliness is key. So I know different districts handle things differently as far as how long they have to do pre-sentence reports. In Georgia, somebody would plead guilty. The sentencing date wasn't set until the judge actually got his hands on the final pre-sentence report. So there was a little bit of flexibility there. In Ohio, the sentencing date is set the same day that somebody pleads guilty. So you know when that date is. So our deadlines are a lot more rigid. More or less, though, in each district, according to their local policies, you have between 50 and 60 days to do your initial report, and then there's obviously a 2-week period to review objections, and then a final report due. So I think in Georgia we had about 90 days to do a report. In Ohio we have about 100 days to do a full report. And at times they're short-staffed in the office, or there's just a lot of indictments coming through, a lot of case assignments, so things can get busy. And regardless of when I was in Savannah or now in Cleveland, I constantly have officers asking me how I've never been late on a report, turning something in. I typically get my reports turned into my supervisor 2 weeks early before their due dates. And for me, it's just always been a goal to stay on top of my responsibilities, and it all comes back to organization. So today I'm going to talk to you a little about some of the things that I've found to be beneficial for my organization. And while things are different in every district around the country, some of the things are just uniform in your approach to doing them and how successful you can be if you just create certain disciplines within your own regimen for every case you get, so on and so forth. And having worked in two districts that operate somewhat vastly different, I can tell you that the way that I've done things, while I've adjusted a little bit in Ohio, pretty much the core of what I do has stayed the same, and it's allowed me to be extremely effective in getting reports done on time, and I've never turned in a report late. I keep my reports thorough, and I'm still able to do all my other additional responsibilities that come with being a specialist in this district. So without any further ado, I'm going to start talking about some of the ways I go through front to back a thorough pre-sentence investigation and the report that goes with it. So immediately, the first thing I do is, in Ohio, officers don't go to change of plea hearings or trials. So our first notice of a case assignment becomes when somebody has pled guilty. At that point, the courtroom deputy clerk sends notification to one of the supervisors in our office that says, hey, a case has been referred for a pre-sentence report to be prepared on this person. In that referral comes a sentencing date in front of a sentencing judge, and then the supervisor assigns those cases to the different PSI officers throughout the district. So, and that comes in the form of an email. So when I get that email saying I've received a case assignment, no matter what I'm doing, no matter what I'm working on, the first thing I do is I email the Assistant United States Attorney and I email the defense attorney. And similar emails, but somewhat different. To the Assistant United States Attorney, my email is pretty much, I've been assigned this case. Will you please email me or forward me the discovery and or investigative materials in this case so that I'm able to review those reports, thoroughly analyze it, and write my own independent offense conduct in the pre-sentence report. And then my email to the defense counsel also says I've been assigned this investigation, and then I say, do you want to be present for the pre-sentence interview where I interview the defendant? And if so, when are you available within the next 7 days to meet to do that interview? And I'm very particular about saying within the next 7 days as opposed to within the next week or just when are you available openly. It's kind of a personal policy. That's not local policy. It's not some sort of monograph thing, but just for me, my general thought is I need to get everybody interviewed within 1 week of assignment. So in the grand scheme of things, and I'll break it down as we go, the more information that I can obtain right off the get-go, even if I have other cases that I need to work on before I get to the case I was just assigned today, at least I have that information in a case file, so when it's time to start working on it, it's all there. I don't have to be calling on an attorney or requesting records or verifications. I've got it. So at times, while it can become burdensome to stop what I'm working on because I got a new assignment, to send out some emails and send out requests for criminal history records or verifications that I might know of at that time, it's extremely, I cannot explain enough how helpful that is a week, 2 weeks later when I'm able to get some time to sit down after I've finished the reports I've been assigned previously and work on this case. So having said that, I send those 2 emails to the government's attorney and the defense counsel, and then from there I start doing what I can do on that case with what I've been given. So usually on the CMECF online docket, I can get a copy of the indictment, I can get a copy of the plea agreement, and I can kind of see some other dates like when they were arraigned and when they were given bond. And so from there I can kind of start entering information into PAX and PSX. So it just depends on if I've got a lot of other previous cases to work on or not, but there are times where I'll enter as much as I can into PSX, and then I'll work on my other cases, and then as stuff comes in, I upload it. But by far, the most important thing that I do is reach out to those attorneys the same day I get assigned a case and make sure that I schedule that PSI interview for at least within 7 days. Because if you wait, a month down the road until you're ready to work on the case to try to figure out how to schedule it, usually defense counsel's busy himself or herself, so it's not like they can just schedule an appointment the same day you call or email them. So then you're going to wait an additional week, and now you're 5 weeks out, and it just, now you're going to start flirting with being late on something, all because you didn't take 1 minute when you were assigned a case to send a quick email and put it in your calendar. So that being said,